Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with another video on the 2025 to 2026 state governments and officials. This was meant to be Thursday's video, but we're getting it done, damn it, and we're doing it now. Anyway, for this video, we are looking at the state of New York. Yeah, this is going to be a long one. There's a lot of material here to go over, so let's just hop into this. About the state itself, it's right there. The capital city is Albany. Largest city is New York City. So yeah, because you need to differentiate between New York State and New York City. It is a state in the northeastern U.S., bordering New England to its east, Canada to the north, and Pennsylvania and New Jersey to the south. Its territory extends into both the Atlantic Ocean and the Great Lakes. It is the fourth most populous state in the United States and the 27th largest state by area. So not huge in size, about the middle of the road, but population up there towards the top. So yeah, needless to say, that makes it heavily, densely populated. So, but with that, let's dig into the Constitution of the state of New York. If I can get my mouse to move here. Constitution of New York establishes the government, federal counterpart. Because the history of the state constitution differs from the federal constitution, the New York Court of Appeals has seen fit to interpret analogous provisions differently from the U.S. Supreme Court's interpretation of federal provisions. So yeah. The state of New York has had 9 constitutional conventions, 1776 to 1777, when the nation gained independence, 1801, 1821, 1846, 1867 to 68, not too long after the Civil War, 1894, 1915, 1938, and 1967. And a constitutional commission, not a convention, in 1872 to 1873, and a judicial convention in 1921. But despite all these conventions, commissions, and all this, it's had only 4 constitutions in its history. 1777 for the first, 1821 for the second, 1846 for the third, and the final one was in 1894, which is the one they have now. Now, with that, let's dig into the government of New York. Of course, it is divided into 3 branches: legislative, executive, judicial. Has a bicameral legislature. So yeah. The capital headquartered in Albany. The state is established by its constitution. The head of the executive is the governor. The legislature consists of the state and the assembly. And unlike other states we've seen so far, this judiciary is interesting because it's called the Unified Court System, not just judiciary of such and such state. And it consists of Court of Appeals, which actually is technically its highest appellate court, not a Supreme Court, and lower courts. The state is also divided into counties, cities, towns, and villages where all the municipal corporations with their own governments. Now, let's look at the executive branch. Here we go. Your members of the executive branch. You have a governor in Kathy Hochul, comptroller in Thomas P. DiNapoli, attorney general in Letitia James. And yes, there actually is a lieutenant governor. I don't know why it's not listed on that page. He is Antonio Delgado. So yeah. But that's the 4 executive branch positions that are where the people are elected. With that, yeah. Talk about the governor. New York, your current governor, Kathy Hochul. She is commander-in-chief of the state's military forces and has the duty to enforce state laws and the power to either approve or veto bills passed by the legislature, to convene the legislature, and grant pardons except in cases of impeachment and treason. So yeah, and the New York governor is the highest paid governor in the nation. See, position of the governor in New York dates back to the British takeover of New Amsterdam. Yeah, before it was New York, it was New Amsterdam of the Danish colony, New Netherlands. Or Dutch colony, I should say, but yeah. So yeah, before they were called governors, I think it was like some weird term, but let's dig into that. The colonial governors of New York. First, for New Netherlands, well, for the city itself, or state, the area itself, which was New Amsterdam. They were called Director Generals. Cornelius Jacobson May was your first Director General. He was followed by Willem Verhulst or Vanderhulst. So yeah, it looks like they're serving about 1 year apiece. Here you get to Peter Minuit, and he serves a total of 5 years. After him, you get Sebastian Janssen Kroll, who serves a year. Walter van Twiller, who serves about 5. And finally, the last, well, not last, the next one is Willem Kieft, who serves for 9 years, and then the last Dutch Director General for New Amsterdam, Peter Stuyvesant, who serves quite a while. 57, 67 minus 3, so 17 years. "17 years he's in charge." But he was the last Director General for the colony, which became control of the English, the British, after the Third Anglo-Dutch War. It was originally named New Orange. Yeah, well, the Dutch recaptured New Amsterdam, which the British had in the name New York. The Dutch named it then New Orange. And when one of the main guys returns back, he was accused of disobeying orders and was instructed not to retake New Amsterdam, but instead conquer the British colonies of St. Helena and Cayenne, now French Guiana. In 1674, a year later, the Dutch were compelled to relinquish New Amsterdam to the British under the terms of the Second Treaty of Westminster. So yeah, that's how control switched. So yeah. Anyway, under Britain, your first territorial governor, Anthony Colve. And once fully under British control, he was kind of in the in-between, Colve was, but fully under British control, your first territory governor for them, Richard Nicolls. Francis Lovelace, Anthony Colve returns. Edmund Andros, Anthony Buckles, Thomas Dongan, the second Earl of Limerick. Francis Nicholson, didn't we have Nicholson before? No. Jacob Leisler, Henry Sloughter, Richard Ingoldsby, Benjamin Fletcher, Richard Coote, the first Earl of Bellamont, John Nanfan, then Edward Hyde, third Earl of Clarendon, John Lovelace, fourth Baron Lovelace, Peter Schuyler, Richard Ingoldsby, Gerardus Beekman, Robert Hunter, Peter Shire again, William Burnett, John Montgomery, Rip Van Dam, awesome name, William Cosby. I feel sorry for you because you it's not your fault, but you didn't know years later that there would be a guy who would make that name horrible because, of course, William is the full name, and if you want to shorten it down, it's Bill Cosby. George Clark, George Clinton, Sir Danvers Osborne, the 3rd Baronet, James Delancey, Charles Hardy, James Delancey again, Cadwallader Coden, Robert Monckton, Cadwallader Coden again, Sir Henry Moore, 1st Baronet, Cadwallader Coden for the 3rd time, John Murray, 4th Earl of Dunmore, William Tryon, Cadwallader Coden a 4th time, William Tryon a 2nd time, James Robertson, and finally Andrew Elliot being the last British governor. Because, yeah, the War for Independence ends in 1783, so, yeah. These were the last British governors here. Now, the American governors. Your first is George Clinton, who, even though there was technically a British governor, the Americans elected their own governor for New York, George Clinton. Yeah. He was there in charge of New York during the entire time the Revolutionary War was going on. Clinton, big name in early American history, soldier, statesman, and 4th vice president, serving under Thomas Jefferson. Aaron Burr served in the 1st term. 2nd term, George Clinton was Jefferson's vice president. He also served some in the 1st term of the following president, James Madison. So, yeah. Major player in American politics early on. John Jay. If you watched some of my other videos, you know John Jay as the 1st Justice of the United States Supreme Court. He was also the 2nd governor of New York. So, yeah. See. Yeah, so he served as Chief Justice first and then was governor. He was also a diplomat. Washington had him sending him to like France and stuff to negotiate treaties, sign stuff. After John Jay, we get George Clinton again. So yeah, and it's after this term as governor, he became Jefferson's vice president. So after him, we get Morgan Lewis, which that's a name I'm not as familiar with, but apparently he was a signer of the Declaration of Independence and fought in the American Revolutionary War and the War of 1812, and served in the New York State Assembly and the New York State Senate, besides being the 3rd governor of the state. Next, he was followed by Daniel D. Tompkins, another name I'm not as familiar with, 6th Vice President of the United States. So already you could see some major players in early American politics. So, yeah. So, 4th governor of New York, 6th vice president of the United States. He was followed up by John Taylor. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted it to do this, yeah. John Taylor, 9 years. He was lieutenant governor of New York. 4 months as acting as the 5th governor, and was also in both houses of the New York legislature. So, important for New York politics. He was followed by DeWitt Clinton, another major name you'll see if you look at American history. He was a United States Senator, Mayor of New York City, 6th Governor of New York State, and was largely responsible for the construction of the Erie Canal. So, yeah. Important guy, again, early politics in America. He was followed by Joseph C. Yates, statesman, politician, founding trustee for Union College. That's all they really have on him, besides he was governor. After him, we went back to DeWitt Clinton again. Then we went to Nathaniel Pitcher, American lawyer, politician, who served as the 8th governor for the state. He's followed by future President Martin Van Buren. Yeah. 8th President of the United States. Was a governor of New York, the 9th. Oh. And was also New York State's Attorney General and a United States Senator. So, yeah. Major player in early American politics. He was followed by Enos T. Throop, lawyer, politician, besides being governor. He was followed by William L. Marcy, whose middle name, it was Learned, so that's pretty cool. Lawyer, politician, judge, was a U.S. Senator, as well as the 7th Governor of New York, United States Secretary of War, and the 21st United States Secretary of State, and was the one who helped negotiate the Gadsden Purchase, which gave us that little stretch of land under, like, Arizona and New Mexico. A lot of people don't think about it, but yeah, just this little sliver here. But Gadsden Purchase, yeah, because he lived after the Mexican-American War, which was in the 40s, so he would have done the Gadsden Purchase after. And he's followed by William H. Seward, another important figure in American history. Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State. Was governor of New York, the 10th governor. So, yeah. And, of course, he's well known for what, when it happened, was called Seward's Folly, but it was the purchase of what would become the state of Alaska. He was followed by William C. Bouck. Not a lot about him we know. Silas Wright, again another important figure. Member of the Albany Regency, member of the United States House of Representatives. He was New York State Comptroller, United States Senator, and the 14th Governor of New York. So yeah, again, important figure. He was followed by John Young, served in the New York State Assembly and the United States House of Representatives besides being governor. He was followed by Hamilton Fish, who was a U.S. Senator, the 26th U.S. Secretary of State. So yeah, he was that besides being the 16th governor of New York. He's followed by Washington Hunt. Not a lot is said about him, so yeah. Then we have Horatio Seymour, another big name in American history. Besides being 18th governor, he was a nominee for president in 1868. So yeah, he would lose to Ulysses S. Grant. He was followed by Myron H. Clark. Not a lot said about him. John A. King is next. First Republican governor of New York. He was followed by Edwin D. Morgan. He was a general in the Union Army, 21st governor of the state of New York, United States Senator. So yeah. And Horatio Seymour is back after that. So yeah, 3 governors and then Seymour's back. He's followed by Reuben Fenton, American merchant and politician, served in the U.S. Senate, was a U.S. Senator, and then governor of New York, the 22nd. And the reason I'm going so far is because you come across more famous names in American history. John T. Hoffman. Recorder for New York City, the 79th mayor of New York City. Though he was connected to the Boss Tweed ring. Yeah, other than that's what else he was connected as far besides being governor. Following him was John Adams Dix, who was a military officer. He was Secretary of the Treasury, Governor of New York, a Union Major General during the Civil War. So yeah. He's followed by Samuel J. Tilden, Democratic nominee in the disputed 1876 United States presidential election. Tilden technically won, but in a decision they handed it over to Harrison, if I'm remembering the right one. And it was kind of a devil's deal because it put Harrison in office, but it ended Reconstruction after the Civil War. He's followed by Lucius Robinson, then Alonzo B. Cornell, and then Grover Cleveland, another U.S. president. 22nd and 24th. First U.S. president to serve non-consecutive terms, basically terms that aren't back-to-back. So yeah. And he was governor, 28th governor of New York. He's followed by David B. Hill, former senator and governor. Then Roswell P. Flower, governor of New York, 2 terms in the House of Representatives. So yeah. He's followed by Levi P. Morton, the 22nd Vice President of the United States, U.S. Ambassador to France, U.S. Representative in the House of Representatives, and the 31st Governor of New York, followed by Frank S. Black. Member of the United States House of Representatives and Governor. He's followed by Bully Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah. President, the 26th president, was the 33rd governor and the 25th vice president of the United States. So, yeah. He's followed by Benjamin Odell. Not a lot about him. Followed by Frank W. Higgins. Not a lot about him. Followed by Charles Evans Hughes, a former Supreme Court Justice. The 36th governor. Yeah. He's followed by Horace White. Not a lot about him. Followed by John Alden Dix. Not a lot about him either. Followed by William Sulzer, 39th Governor of New York, United States Representative in the House of Representatives. So, and first and to date only New York governor to be impeached and removed. He's followed by Martin H. Glenn, first Irish American Roman Catholic head of government. In what was then the most populated state in the United States. He's followed by Charles Seymour Whitman, delegate from New York to the 1916 Republican National Convention, and Governor Al Smith, American politician who served as the 42nd governor. He was his party's presidential nominee in 1928, losing to Herbert Hoover, who brought in the Great Depression. So yeah. He's followed by Nathan L. Miller. He was New York State Comptroller and a judge of the New York Supreme Court and New York Court of Appeals. and governor. He's followed by Al Smith again, we already talked about. Then we have Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd president, and often cited as probably the best president in United States history. He was definitely the longest serving. And of course, he was New York's governor, the 44th. He's followed by Herbert H. Lehman, first Jewish governor of New York, and a United States senator, besides being, He's followed by Charles Paletti, 46th governor, and first person of Italian American ancestry to become governor of a U.S. state. Then Thomas E. Dewey, probably best known for the newspaper that was held up, Dewey Defeats Truman, which turned out not to be the case. Truman ended up getting reelected despite what the newspapers proclaimed. But he was the 47th governor of New York. So he was followed by W. Averell Harriman. More on the business side, Secretary of Commerce. Then we get into a very notable name, Nelson Rockefeller, who was governor, the 41st vice president. So followed by Malcolm Wilson, 50th governor of New York, member of the New York State Assembly. So followed by Hugh Carey, not Drew, but Hugh, American politician, attorney, served in the U.S. House of Representatives and was the 51st governor. Then we get more into the modern era with names I'm definitely aware of because these were all governors during my lifetime. Mario Cuomo, George Pataki, Eliot Spitzer. Not as familiar with David Patterson, even though he is fairly recent. Andrew Cuomo. And your modern current governor, Kathy Hochul. That was a lot of governors to go over, I know, but I just felt with all that history there, we kind of had to go over it all. The governor's cabinet: Department of Agriculture and Markets, Department of Audit and Control, Department of Civil Service, Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, Department of Economic Development, Education Department, Department of Environmental Conservatism, the Executive Department, Department of Family Assistance, under which there is the Office of Children and Family Services and the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, the Department of Financial Services, Department of Health, Department of Labor, Department of Law, Department of Mental Hygiene, under which there is the Office of Addiction Services and Supports, the Office of Mental Health, and the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. Then the Department of Motor Vehicles, Department of Public Service, Department of State, Department of Taxation and Finance, Department of Transportation, and the Department of Veterans Services. So that's the cabinet for the governor. With that, we get into a look at the legislature. Bicameral we talked about. It's divided into Senate and Assembly, name we've seen here and there. The Assembly consists of 100 150 members. The Senate varies in its number, but currently has 63, and is the Assembly headed by the Speaker and the Senate headed by the President, which is held by the Lieutenant Governor, who has tie-breaking vote power, but more often it's presided over by the temporary president or a senator of the majority leader's choosing. They make laws and override vetoes if the governor vetoes a bill, propose amendments to the New York Constitution by majority vote. Let's see. Sessions. They take place on the first month of the year until a budget has been published by both houses. According to the New York State Legislative calendar, session convenes at January 9th through June 19th. The budget deadline is the last week of March, but historically it has dragged on till the month of August and can even surpass that if the Senate and Assembly fails to compromise. Both houses work together and independently to introduce bills and propose changes or support for the governor's executive budget. So yeah, that's a look at what it talks about with the legislative branch, legislature. Let's dig in a little more. As we said, President of the Senate is Antonio Delgado. They have a temporary president of the Senate, Andrea Stewart Cousins. So it's not a president pro tem or pro tempore of the Senate. It's temporary president of the Senate. And Speaker of the House is Carl Heastie. Now, the breakdown of the legislature, your Senate, 63 seats, as we said, currently, and it has 41 that are Democrat and 22 that are Republican. And the Assembly has 150 seats, of which right now 102 are Democrat and 48 are Republican. So yeah, both Assembly members and senators serve 2-year terms. To be a member of either house, one must be a citizen of the U.S., a resident of the state of New York for at least 5 years, and a resident of the district for at least 1 year prior to election. So yeah. Okay, but yeah, that's a look at the New York State Legislature. And let's finally go back over here and look at the judiciary. Unified Court System of New York State. Provides a mechanism for dispute resolution. It does produce some mild confusion for outsiders. In general, it is composed of the trial courts, consisting of the superior courts and the local courts, and the appellate courts. which are the three divisions of New York's court system. Again, appellate courts, Court of Appeals, the appellate division of the Supreme Court, appellate terms of the Supreme Court, and appellate sessions of the county court. The superior courts, Supreme Court, County Court, Family Court, Surrogates Court, Court of Claims, and then local courts. You have New York City Criminal Court, New York City Civil Court, District Court outside of New York City, City Courts outside of New York City, and Justice Courts, which are the town and village courts. So yeah, as we said, technically, Court of Appeals is the highest level of appellate court, highest court in New York State. That's such a unique change, because the New York State Supreme Court is a felony trial court. So yeah, very, very interesting. Now, let's see. Oh, it'll probably be much of the same information, but yeah, the division of the courts, Court of Appeals, Appellate Division, Supreme Court, and then all the other under courts, local courts, extrajudicial courts, which aren't technically part of the judicial branch, is Traffic Violations Bureau, the New York City Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, and the New York Court for the Trial of Impeachments. So usually fairly specific tribunals, if you would, court, because yeah, they're not part of really the judicial branch. Let's see. Trying to see if there's any other mention here. Alright, let's go up. But yeah. The Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court Appellate Division, the New York Supreme Court, New York City Civil Court, New York City Criminal Court, New York Family Court, New York Surrogates Court, and New York Court of Claims. We won't be going over all that because it's already almost a 50-minute video at this point. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of stuff to go over. Just because it's so interesting, all that there is when we're looking at the state of New York and its officials, its government. But we'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, Later.